All right. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in to UNISA Science Engagement Center's live online learning M3. Today is the last day. It's a happy Thursday once again. For those of you who have joined us, thank you for taking the time and join us. I hope this will be one of the best sessions for the week. Let's finish strong. And for those that are watching the recording, thank you so much for taking time to watch the recording. Without wasting time, I'll hand over to Casper for the house rules. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Jamila. Welcome everybody to today. We only have, I see we are a very small class, so I think it will be, we don't actually have to do the house rules for today. So if anybody has a question at any point in time, please feel free to raise your hand or use our chat area. Then over to you, Dr. House.
Excellent. Thank you very much, team. Yeah, it's the final session. It goes like this. It goes so quickly, but it's good, and it's good to kind of wrap everything up. And you'll see as we tie it all up, you'll see like all the little pieces that we have in the last other three sessions. We kind of joining it up into make one day. Okay. So before we start, you missed yesterday's class, Angie. We are trying to get it all uploaded by tomorrow. That's the plan. Okay, and we'll see what we can do. We're a bit fragmented as a team at the moment because half our team is at SciFest in Grahamstown. Yeah, so we'll see what we can do, but hopefully by the weekend. Okay. All right, so welcome everybody. Indeed, as has been said, we're in the final session of M3. And it really is not just this whole, this M3 is not just about the theory of it, but actually applying what you hear and what you learn, and then reflecting on the impact. And so some things will work well with your teams, and some will maybe need a little bit of fine tuning to be applicable to your team. But a virtual gear competition is really a safe space for learning. And so if you are, it's kind of, there's a little bit of everything for everybody, and it tests the basic activities. As I've said before, if you work through M1 and M2, each of those sections that is applicable into the virtual gear competition, and that's how virtual gear competitions are actually designed. They're designed that they address the learning that each team has. Yeah. And so that you can apply what you've learned and you can apply it within a competition. All right. So let's quickly go through the presentation. Here we go. This is where I say share my screen. All right, here we go. Screen. And then I need somebody to say, oh, they can see my screen. Somebody's going to say it
Yes,
now.
Dr. House.
There we go. Excellent. All right. So here we go. Okay, well, let's go on here. All right, so this is really kind of the final part where you need to present, and yes, your final kind of activity will be that the robot actually runs and does all the missions, and that is cool, and you can see how well it works. But I do think there must be some kind of reporting or presentation of your of how you actually got there. And so this is this part. Many a time a team comes to a competition and their robot fails, and then they feel like they've accomplished nothing, but they have actually. But if you don't document it, you will have no record of what they've actually achieved, how they have moved from maybe not knowing anything, going through all the stages of doing a simple chassis, of programming the robot, doing some navigation, doing some passive attachments, some powered attachments, and some sensors. So all that must be documented. And so if you've got a record of it, then you've got something to show. Whether your robot behaves or not, well, that's another story. We have to focus on the learning part of it. All right. So again, we've got some general class culture rules, and we're really trying to equip you, the coaches. We're trying to walk alongside you and say, these are the lessons that we've learned. This is what we've noticed. This is how we have put this together, and we would really love to hear from you if something works or if something really doesn't work. It's also an option. Okay, so we've come to the third part, the fourth part, which is a technical presentation, and it's called an engineering notebook. And you might not see the purpose of it now, but and if you have some time, you can go and look at First Tech Challenge. These are engineering well, they're learners, but they're doing engineering, and they are building these huge big robots with laser cutting and 3D printing and remote controls and everything. They need to be able to present their work technically in what is called an engineering notebook, and you have to be able to show where you have come from and where you're going. And so you need to present this as part of the solution. And so this is part of the skills development, is how do you document what you've learned? How do you put it in technical language without writing? Remember, there's a different type of writing. So this is technical. You need to be able to note what you've done, how you've done it, without writing a fairy story, because this is not a fairy story. This is a technical notebook, all right? And you must be able to present your solution. And then, of course, the small print of this MOOC is that you actually get to enter into virtual gear competition. It gives you an opportunity to be able to apply then what you've learned. All right. So these are the parts of your report, and they should be there. You can maybe have a page or 2 pages of each, but it should be present when you report. In the past, we would have a team of engineers asking the learners about their technical and their building and stuff. And no, we don't have that. And it's on the MOOC portal. So it really is that our engineering students will then evaluate your technical report. Okay. So there must be something about how you built your robot and something about your programming. Okay. And for programming, really for every mission, you can put in a screenshot and say, this is our program, and describe how you did the program and explain why you did certain things. Okay. Then there must be a strategy. And the strategy is always, it's got to kind of fit into the constraints. All right. So your strategy will start. There were 5 missions, and we were given 2 minutes to score as many points. And so our strategy was, what is your strategy? Your strategy is to get as many points as possible, as quick as possible. Or our strategy was that each group of us is going to choose a mission and do it as quickly and as effectively and accurately as possible. So each way, when you have a strategy, your team must have a strategy. And for goodness sake, they need to be able to agree on what their strategy is. Yeah. It's a bit more dangerous when a team comes before a panel of judges and then they disagree on their strategy in front of the judges. And, oh my word, that doesn't go down well. Okay. The next thing that there must be details of how you tested your robot and you tested your software, and then how you debugged it. You must have, if a team comes in and says, no, we programmed this, it did it first time, we did it correctly, and then we moved on to the next mission and did it correctly, and like, oh, really? That is very rare. Very, very rare of a team to just put down their robot and then they test it. They don't even have to test it, it just works. No, it's a pinch of salt. All right. So what you really want is your teams to tell the judges, how you test it, what bugs did you find, how did you debug it? And I think that is where these match scores, and I'll show you the score sheet looks like now. For every time you come together, it's just a habit. It's just a really good habit to have. So you'll see when your lesson, you've got 10 minutes to go, then you say, all right, let's score the robot. And then you run the robot and you score it. And you tell us how long. So did it take, I don't know, 120 seconds. So maybe you can say, well, we scored 30 points in 120 seconds. And maybe tomorrow we score 42 points in 120 seconds. And so there's already improvement. And if you've got somebody who likes to analyze the data, maybe they want to draw a little graph and draw a graph and say, so as our time increased, our scoring also increased, which is obviously what you want. And then you put this all into a report. And yeah, with a content page and an introduction, a conclusion, maybe put a team picture in as well. Okay, so just when you are writing this technical report, some kids will obviously have a lot of words. It's kind of that there are different children with different problem solving skills. Okay, so you will have some that are very logical and they want to have it all nice and neat and organized, and some want to be kind of solve problems with drawing. That's fine. That's fine. All right. There must be evidence of critical thinking. There must be the evidence of who and where and why. Did they ask the question, why this, not that? Why did they do it? Why did they do it that way? And maybe if you don't see them asking questions in their report, well, ask them why and add it into your report. Okay. Creativity, it's a party, allows for a lot of creativity. And there's not only one way of doing it. So you can do it all differently. You can do it in a different order. The kids can do it. The team can do it in any order. The team can do it how they would like to do it. Please don't be swayed by the videos. Okay, and we're going to upload those videos hopefully this afternoon. But then to say maybe there's another way of doing it. And that's where also innovation and imagination comes in. It's part of a learning process. If you can try something, and if it doesn't work, then you say it didn't work, but at least try it. Okay. There must be evidence that the team have worked on this together, never solo. And then, so this whole thing of computational thinking, they need to be able to take up the whole problem, divide up the problem into little bits and pieces, and then solve the problem bit by bit by bit. And that's what we want. Okay, so we've already defined the problem, and if they can write down how they saw their problem, what is their problem? Their problem is that the robot must complete the missions to score as many points. And so how did they do that? They decided, they chose these missions, and these missions were going to score so many points. So in theory, this is how many points you're going to be. You can get the wording from the challenge document, all right, to define the problem. All right. Then the game strategy, they must put it in there. They have different parts, and these are the different parts of their game strategy, but the strategy. And these are then the parts that they then put together in a game strategy. All right. You can, when you refer to the building of the robot, you can refer to the engineering design process. Okay, and especially if you've got an attachment that's not quite really working and you want to change it, you can, within the engineering design process, you can say which are the solutions, and draw a picture, draw a diagram, and say this is how we're going to do it. Maybe create it and then test it, and if it doesn't work, well, then we'll go back and say maybe we created an arm like this and then it didn't quite work, so we modified it like this. And each time you add it as part of your design process to get to a good solution. Well, a solution that works, obviously. Okay, and then again, the engineering design process is a process. Okay, so you can't just say, well, we'd have followed the engineering design process in the story. No, you've actually, your learners have got to write the words down. It's just too easy to like, whatever. How did you imagine it? How did you plan it? And then draw things and sketch things. And then how did you create it? Show us the different builds that you had. And then obviously we want improvement. So you tested it and then you evaluated and you thought, oh, maybe it's not that great. And then you revised it, and so you can reflect on that. So this is the ongoing process. All right. So now, in terms of technical and the building, if you stand with your robot, well, this is our robot, and it's got wheels and axles, and it's got sensors, and it's got attachments. Well, that is kind of the said in the fewest words. You've got to tell me or tell the judges about the chassis. All right, it's top heavy, it's large, it's this way, it's flat, it's got an attachment on the front, so it's elongated forward, backwards. Okay, and then tell me about the navigation. Why did you choose the smaller wheels, or would you not have taken the bigger wheels? How long are the axles? Do you have sensors? Please don't attach sensors if you're not using them. Okay, so if you've got a sensor attached to your robot, tell us why you've got it attached. And you've got to make sure the learners know what the sensors are used for. So you can't use a touch sensor for follow the line. It just doesn't work. Okay, touch sensor is used for touch, and the color sensor is used for follow the line. All right. And there are, I think there's two. Well, at least there's a line follow. There's a line follow, and you could use probably the ultrasonic to find an object, I think. All right. So maybe there's two types of sensors. Okay. With the attachments, there's definitely a powered attachment that drops it. Whether you use a gripper kind of attachment or cargo loader kind of attachment, there's definitely a powered attachment. And then you should be able to put them on and put them off with dog gears. Okay. And then you can swap them easily over. And then how did your team do that? How did they design those attachments, and how did they extend those attachments to go a little bit more? Maybe you can adapt one passive powered attachment to do multiple, or do you want to just rebuild it? And so your team must add that in the document to say, no, we needed a whole new attachment, and so this is how we built it, which can help. All right. When you do have a robot design overview, you really do need to have sketches. Okay. Tell us what makes this robot so amazing. Tell me about the robot's attachments. Tell me the motors. How many motors do you have, and which functions are they? And how many sensors do you have, and which? And so this whole strategy, you have a strategy to build the chassis, and you have a strategy to build the attachment. So tell me that the chassis part was built by these two learners, and then each of the group got a chance to then develop an attachment, and this is how we did it. And we attached it with dog gears, and we kind of kept that straightforward. And so you have to be able to put into words. And here's another thing: if your learners are using a design from somebody else, they can't claim it as their own. Okay, then they will need to somewhere put in to say, this is a design that we found, but we've modified the building of it. All right. Okay, then for programming, and screenshots help, all right? You will need to give a kind of overall program description. Say your program consists of 4 separate smaller programs. Each program does a mission, and on Spike Prime, it's numbered 1, 2, 3, and on EV3s, you're actually allowed to give it names, okay? If you have input data, how do you use it? Are you ignoring it, or are you actually just using it? And can you use that then in your flow control? Okay. Another thing is that the program for each mission is separate, or does the one flow onto the other one? So maybe a good thing is to describe that each program is separate, and so each robot mission does one thing and then goes back. Okay. Your programming, there needs to be a clear plan of how did you back up, and how do you restore, and what you're planning. Okay, if you have somebody who's in charge of all the programs, that's great, but we don't want somebody writing all the programs. Okay, and that must be also seen. Okay, so I had a bit of fun with pens here, and I thought there was lots of fun. Lots of these drawings, you can print a whole lot of them, and they let the learners draw the path diagrams. Okay, except you need to know the mission. You do need to know what the mission is. In terms of missions and pictures and pathways and things like that. Yeah. Okay. And then, okay. So when it comes to testing and debugging, you actually have to give proof. All right. So you have to tell, you have to add it in your report to say, where did you test and evaluate your robot's structure? Okay. And that's different to programming. So your structure, is your structure tough enough or robust enough to withstand the programming and the moving on the board? Okay, so once you've show us how you've tested and evaluated the robot structure, but then also explain how you tested and evaluated the programming. So maybe the program didn't work so lekker, it was taking too long, and so you changed it, and so you have your weekly test scores and your check as a checklist of testing. It kind of goes hand in hand, and so if you can do the one with the other, then you have a pretty good record of how your team is progressing. It is not fun to go week in and week out just testing and writing on your program, and then there's nothing to show. But if you have a test run with a score and timed and a checklist of how you tested it, at least you've got like, okay, so last week we were there, this week we're here, so there's hope for this team. All right. Then the score sheet, you can run as many as you like. And what often students do is they take a score and then they write on top, we changed the wheels and we changed the program, and this is our score after that. Okay, and then they can do it another time and another time. And so it's improving the robot with each run. Okay, and so you have just got the time, you've got the score, and then lots of comments, of course, to get to the goal. And it's just a record. It's a record of where you're going. All right. So this is the score sheet of the It's a Party. And if you have a look there, you get points for everything. We try to be as fair as possible, so to give the teams as many points as possible. The party parade is kind of over and above your mission, so that's it's important, but it's not part of the main activities or tasks that the robot has to do. So you get little extra points, which does make it a little bit more fun. Okay, all right. So what have you got included in your technical report? You've got the technical building, which you describe. You've got photographs and you've got sketches. Then you've got your technical building. You've got to describe and use lots of screenshots. And then your game strategy, lots of diagrams, lots of pictures of how you're going to do this. And do include your testing and debugging. Okay, what can go wrong or what goes wow. You all need to you need to put that into your documents so we can have a clear understanding of where you've come from as a team. Okay. Yes. So the really with the match scores, did your team really improve? Okay, and that's what you get from the time and the score, and you can compare that, especially if you're going to graph something, and you can see where you actually want to improve your score. You don't want to go backwards. Just it's one of those things. Yeah, some things can go wrong. So this is one of my, if I can find the thing here. So usually when we were testing, we always had the cat lying and chasing the robot and insisting on. So yes, it can go wrong. It's one of those things. At least it didn't interfere with the robot. This was the gone tubing one. It was just in the way. Oh, the poor cat. All right. All right. But I really need to come back to this to say, is it all worth it? Yes, it's all worth it, because you are developing the problem solving skills. You are encouraging and creating a space for your learners to have a trial and error. You are encouraging them to develop a strategy. You are encouraging them to identify the risks and then mitigate them. You are encouraging them to share tasks and work in collaboration, to tackle problems. Some are quite large, and adapt to whatever the constraints are. And then we can persevere with optimism and precision and practice. Okay, and then you've got to enter a team. So everybody, I would like a team in the competition. Okay, so thank you very much. It's up until November. We'd love to hear from you. We were running, I think it's on the 4th. The 4th of September, we'll have a one-day special. It feels like a one-day only. With the virtual gear on the Tuesday. We're having a virtual gear in-person competition. I'll send you lots of videos so you can see how the robot is doing there. All right. Excellent. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Or are we good? I think the really important thing with virtual gear is just to start, and gives you a safe place just to start on competitions. Yeah. Okay. Nobody wants to say anything. All right. Okay. There are no hands, no further hands.
Dr. Vos, we did have a question from Crystal that asked, when is the in-person competition?
Oh, we're going to have a workshop, and it's on the Tuesday of, I think it's the 4th of October. But it'll come out with the October schedule, if you want to join us. Okay. You can just come as you are. You can join a team, and it's just maybe just to have an in-person thing. Yeah. So the 4th of October we're doing virtual gear. The 5th of October we're going to have some fun with First Lego League, and the 6th of October we're going to do World Robot Olympiad. We're going to do some maths. Okay. I'm sure we'll repeat it. We're trying it out. We're allowed to have people on campus now, so maybe we can try it out. All right. Thank you, everybody. You've got an extended tea break. You've got half an hour to go and have some good tea, and then we can meet together again at 4 o'clock. All right. Thank you for joining us. I'm looking forward to lots of exciting teams in the competition, into the virtual gear competition, and that'll be awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, team. I'll see you at 4 o'clock.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. You're welcome.